Welcome. Today we're going to break down one of the most significant regulatory shifts in the medical device world. The European Union's move from a collection of directives to a single, comprehensive regulation. This is a change that has reshaped the entire industry, so let's dive right in and unpack what you really need to know.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this evolution in 5 key stages. We'll start by looking at the old system, then introduce the new regulation, break down its core pillars, walk through the implementation timeline, and finally, really dig into the impact this has had on everyone.
To really grasp why the new Medical Device Regulation, or MDR, is such a monumental change, you first have to understand what came before it. This context is absolutely key to appreciating just how big of a leap this was.
For the better part of 3 decades, the regulatory landscape in the EU was defined by a series of directives. Now, the crucial thing to understand about a directive is that it sets a goal, but it leaves it up to each individual member country to write its own national laws to achieve that goal. As you can imagine, this led to a real patchwork of different rules across Europe.
Well, over time, some pretty serious cracks started to show in that fragmented system. Different countries interpreted the rules differently, enforcement was inconsistent, and all of this pointed to a very clear, very urgent need for a stronger, more unified framework that could truly protect patient safety across the entire EU market.
Okay, so that brings us to the EU's big solution, the new Medical Device Regulation. And let me be clear, this wasn't just a minor update or a fresh coat of paint. It was a complete overhaul, a fundamental rethinking of the entire regulatory approach. And here it is, maybe the single most important change to understand. The MDR is a regulation, not a directive. What does that mean? It means it's a binding law that applies in its entirety directly across all EU member states. No more national interpretations, no more patchwork, just one single, harmonized set of rules for the entire market.
This quote, taken right from the regulation itself, really gets to the heart of the matter. You can see the shift in thinking right there. It's not just about ticking boxes, it's about a commitment to high standards, demanding reliable and robust data, and putting patient safety front and center.
So we know it's a big deal, but what specifically changed? What are the nuts and bolts? Well, the new regulation is really built on 3 foundational pillars. Let's break down each one, because they really drive all the new requirements you'll encounter.
First up, total life cycle traceability. The old system was very focused on getting a device to the market. The new system is about knowing where that device is and how it's performing through its entire life, from the factory through every step of the supply chain, all the way to the patient and even after.
And the core mechanism that makes this possible is the Unique Device Identifier, or UDI. Honestly, the best way to think of a UDI is like a fingerprint for every single medical device. It has 2 parts, one that identifies the device model, the DI, and another that identifies the specific production batch or serial number, the PI. Just think about the power of that. If there's an issue with a single batch, you can now pinpoint it with incredible precision.
The second pillar is all about enhanced transparency. The goal here was to pull back the curtain and make crucial information about medical devices readily available, not just to regulators, but to doctors, hospitals, and even to the public. Now, the engine that drives this transparency is a massive new central database called UDIMED. Think of it as the central nervous system for all device information in the EU. It brings everything together in one place: device registrations, clinical trial data, incident reports, surveillance activities, the whole shebang.
And that brings us to our third pillar, which, frankly, might be the biggest game changer of them all: strengthened clinical evidence. The MDR raises the bar dramatically here. It's no longer enough to just say a device is safe. Manufacturers now have to prove that it performs as intended and provides a tangible clinical benefit. So getting a device approved is really just the beginning of the journey now. Under the MDR, manufacturers must continuously and proactively collect real-world data on their devices through what's called post-market clinical follow-up, or PMCF. This is an ongoing process to prove that the device remains safe and effective throughout its entire lifespan on the market.
Okay, so a change this massive doesn't happen overnight. How did it actually get rolled out? For anyone working in this field, whether you're in R&D, regulatory, or quality, understanding this timeline is absolutely critical.
It's been a multi-year journey. The regulation officially came into force way back in May 2017, kicking off a long transition period. A huge milestone was May 2020, when the old directives were officially repealed, But, and this is important, there are still transition periods in place for some older devices, with a full-blown review of the whole system scheduled for 2027.
And if you want one single number that perfectly illustrates this new focus on the long-term life cycle, here it is, 15. For any implantable device, manufacturers now have to keep all of their technical documentation available for inspection by authorities for at least 15 years after the very last device of that kind was sold. That's a huge commitment.
All right, let's bring this all home. What's the new reality on the ground? When you boil it all down, what is the overarching impact of this massive regulatory evolution on the industry?
I mean, the shift in philosophy is just night and day. We've moved from a system that was almost entirely focused on getting a device approved for the market to a system that scrutinizes its safety and performance across its entire life cycle. We've gone from fragmented national rules to one single harmonized law, from limited visibility to radical transparency.
So here's the bottom line. For every single player in the supply chain, what the regulation calls economic operators, so that's manufacturers, importers, and distributors, the level of responsibility and scrutiny has gone way, way up. The same is true for the notified bodies that audit them. The bar for quality, safety, and performance has been permanently raised for everybody involved.
And that leaves us with a final thought to consider. The MDR was a truly massive undertaking, all designed to build a safer, more transparent future for medical devices in Europe. Its principles are already influencing regulations all over the globe. The real question now is how this new standard will continue to evolve to protect patients, and how the industry will continue to innovate to meet these incredibly high demands.